There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With over 140 channels in your vehicle, your all-access trial includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video on Demand. What you love is on now.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to this lunchtime learning session brought to you by SiriusXM. You're on CMA Connected, and I'm your host, Ben Wu. Now, the season is winding down. I look back at what an amazing year we've had. We've got to cover so many different brands, have deep conversations, get you guys some information, some training. And, we're kind of at the end of the ride, right? 2021 is about to wrap up. We've only got a very few shows left, but I promise you these shows we're putting a lot of effort to and definitely worth your time to check out, such as today's show. It's not every day there's a new product release, especially with the climate that we're living in, and especially at this time of year. But I'm excited to say that if you're tuning in now, you're watching this either live or on demand, we've got some new goodies to talk about, courtesy of Pioneer Electronics. And I'm happy to say we've got the right people to share that information with us as we go through and learn all about these new products from Pioneer. So first up, I'd like to invite our very, very, very knowledgeable specialist in Pioneer Electronics from Canada, Mr. Robert Mony. Hey, Rob.
Hi, how are you, Ben?
I'm very, very good. And as well, who will be joining us will be none other than their national product trainer, who we've had the pleasure of having on many times, Mr. Harry Kroll. Welcome, Harry.
Hey, Ben.
You heard what I said. Pretty exciting stuff. New product coming from Pioneer deep into December. What is going on, Harry?
Not new product coming from Pioneer, Ben. New product that is here right now today.
Oh, this stuff is available right now, ready to order. Okay, let's get that disclaimer out of the way. It has arrived and ready to ship, but it is new product to the 2021 product offering, is it not?
That's correct. It's still December. 2021 has 12 months, so we're squeaking them in right under the line there.
It's like right before the finish line. Hold on a second. Right when you thought we were done. No, we got something new to talk about. Robert, these are two categories, one being a relatively new category for Pioneer, and the other one being obviously a staple, but making some big improvements over some previous product with this new Champion series.
Oh, yeah, it is. It actually, we're bringing back the name of the Champion series for subwoofers. Highly acclaimed subwoofers, lots of reference in the past that Ari will cover in a couple of minutes. But we're not bringing the name just for bringing the name back. We did it this way because we made really a lot of improvement over previous generation, and we've listened to the customers asking for specific details. So we work really hard to bring this new Champion subwoofers on the market. Yeah.
Now I took the liberty and did a little bit of digging. And yes, I'm happy that you mentioned this is not a new moniker under the Pioneer label. Champion series has been out in the past, and it was known to be quite the beefy offering. So I'm very interested to see what the latest, modifications, upgrades, technology improvements have done. So do we want to begin with going over the Champion series? And perhaps we should mention the other part, which is in our description of this show, is a new dual camera dash cam system, Harry. And then, like I said, this is not necessarily a new category for Pioneer, but certainly this is a fresh new product in that category for Pioneer.
Yeah, it certainly is. We have a couple of new dash cameras in North America. This one is available in Canada, and we'll give you a nice detail on that. But a dual camera, front and rear, great resolution and very, very small, footprint, so to speak, for the camera. We'll take a good look at it.
All right, excellent. Well, let's get this party underway. Let's start with the look how nice that is. It is the Champion series, and that's if I'm not mistaken, that is pretty much the same logo as I've seen in years past, is it not?
Yeah, it certainly is. The Champion series subwoofers are very well respected around North America and around the world. And that Champion series logo that you see is one of the things that people look for with it. And so we want to make that identifiable to anybody who's looking to buy the product, or when you look in somebody's trunk, you're checking out the subs and the amps, you want to be able to see that Champion series there. It lets you know what this product is.
Great. And there's certainly a focus. It's in the background. I can see it on the front of the cone, that honeycomb design shape. I'm sure we're going to dig into that. And there's some relevance there, or else it wouldn't be so much in the forefront.
Yeah, there really is some very important relevance there. Honeycomb structure within the woofer cone. It's absolutely amazing.
All right, well, let's dig in. Here we go.
So, okay, let's take a quick look here at the kind of the previous generation of subwoofers and moving forward. And so, the TSA 300D4 was the existing product in Canada, and that's being replaced by two new 12-inch subs. So we had the 300D4, which is a dual voice coil 4-ohm 12-inch sub, and that's really being replaced by the two new Champion Series subs. You have a single voice coil and a dual voice coil 4-ohm sub. Now, please note, if you're listening in the U.S., the TSA 300D4 is still available in the U.S. and will continue to be available in the U.S. for at least several months. And in addition to that, you'll be seeing the new Champion Series subs, the TSA 301D4 and the TSA 301S4. D for dual voice coil, S for single voice coil.
So two things that stand out at me here, Harry. Number one is that's a lot more offering and options for the dealers, right? And to have that single voice coil configuration and a dual. Obviously, we're going to get into the aesthetics and the structure here because it's obvious there's a difference in the build. But the other thing to take note, I noticed you highlighted in red the specifications real quick on the output and the RMS. An extra 100 watts on maximum output here, I noticed.
Right. So when we dig into this thing a little bit more, Ben, we're going to talk about the sensitivity of the woofer. So one of the things you should note there is the RMS power handling capability is 500 watts on the old one and the new ones. The peak power handling, or when that kick drum thumps, those peaks that you get out of that woofer, out of the amplifier and the woofer, up to 1600 watts. So this is more durable than the previous product, but it isn't a big jump up in power handling capability. What I'm going to show you, though, is there's a huge jump up in the efficiency of this speaker. So I can take the same power that you've been using and give you enormous more output from a different woofer inside the same enclosure.
That makes it very interesting for upgrade potential, especially when dealing with a client that may already have a certain setup and is looking to upgrade. Interesting. Let's dive a little bit deeper.
All right, so we talked before, the Champion Series subwoofers. The whole Champion Series idea is not new, and it comes from a long history of Pioneer of high power handling capability, large magnetic structure, long excursion on the woofer cone, and a very strong and rigid chassis or basket to that cone. And the Champion Series subwoofers have evolved for many years, and they really come from the SPL winning designs of Pioneer's systems, a bunch of years ago. A lot of people don't know this, Ben, but Pioneer was the first organization to hit 180 dB in dB drags back a few years ago. And we had a young gentleman working for us at the time, working with us. His name was Scott Owens. And Scott, and if you'll flip over to the next slide, Scott, was directly involved with the development of these woofers and the development of the amplifiers that we used. And when we were able to hit 180 dB inside an F350 with 18 amplifiers working on 18 volts, 9 woofers inside this thing, so it's in the 9+ category. It was an F350 basically full of cement to hold the thing together, and you had to bolt the door into place before you operated it. Absolutely amazing system there, 180 dB. And I remember back in the day wearing T-shirts that we had done that said 180 dB Club member number 1. That was pretty cool. But these subwoofers, these Champion Series subwoofers, come from that lineage. All the concepts that come from those subs that we use to break 180 dB have trickled down into a more consumer-friendly product. So instead of $2,000 subwoofers, we're looking at something that's much more affordable for most customers.
You're bringing me back, Harry, to my youth, because I totally remember when that happened. I was involved with Pioneer Canada way back then. They had a touring vehicle, and that sub right there in the bottom of that slide, it brings back memories as well. And you know what the message here is? Pioneer can pound, man. Like, you got to remember this. This is not a company that doesn't know how to pound. You guys know how to do it, and it's nice to see that you've, like you said, consumerized the product and we're going to see just what type of technology has trickled down from there to be in this new 2021/2022 Champion Series.
Right. So there are a couple of things that you can always expect to see with Champion Series subwoofers. And this is just cosmetic, but it identifies the product very quickly. And the first thing is the just iconic Pioneer Red spider. If you look inside this speaker, you see that spider in there. You always see a spider. It is Pioneer Red. And I mean Pioneer Red by the logo that's on the box. And then if you look on the back of the product, on the back of the woofer, you'll see that Pioneer Red label with white print on it. And then on the woofer cone, the cone that faces you, you see that red cursive script that says Champion Series. All of these things identify this product as the Champion Series, and consumers want this. They have told us that they want to be able to show this off, and they want to be able to recognize it when they're in a store. And so the Champion Series continues with these very simple, they're all cosmetic things, but they make a difference to people buying the product.
Absolutely. Very signature, might I add. All right.
So there's two of these. This is the TSA 301D4. This is the dual voice coil variety 12-inch subwoofer, 4-ohm 12-inch sub and dual voice coil. And you'll click over to the next one. It's the TSA 301S4. So the S4 is really the exact same subwoofer, just in a single voice coil design. The two of them are virtually exactly the same, and they go in the same type of enclosure. And, the enclosures, the next slide, please. The enclosures here are really very small. The sealed enclosure, the recommended internal volume for the sealed enclosure is 1.25 cubic feet. And, realistically, that is not much bigger than the retail package that the product ships in. It is not much bigger than the box the thing comes in, 1.25 cubic feet. And there's a little bit of give. You can do about plus or minus 10% on there, and you're still working out okay. And they work great also in a ported enclosure. With a ported enclosure, you're looking at about 1.5 cubic feet. And that it would be a 6.5-inch port, 3-inch diameter port, 6.5 inches long. And that's kind of the sweet spot that you're looking for when you're building an enclosure. So nice small box. Now, it's important to note, though, that this is the same enclosure size from the previous models. So if you wanted to follow that upgrade path, you could literally take this thing, take the old ones out, put these new ones in that same box, and then you're going to start to recognize the change in the efficiency of these subwoofers. And we haven't got to that part of the story yet, but that same box, put a new sub in it, and it's going to thump.
All right.
So here are some of the technology ideas that are behind these speakers, and we're going to touch on each one of these things individually and give you a little more detail behind it. But the first thing is right on the top, the honeycomb designed injection molded polypropylene woofer cone. That is the cap cone or the seamless cone that sits in the front of this woofer. The honeycomb design just makes it so strong. It's fantastic. The surround, we're going to go kind of clockwise around here. The surround is a hybrid type of a surround. It uses two different materials together to make it incredibly durable. The red spider that we talked about is built in there. We spent a bunch of money building into these things a much larger motor and magnetic structure than the previous models had. The basket design and the basket enclosure are there to reduce vibration. And that reduced vibration helps to give us better efficiency. And then the drive cone and the cap cone on the front are connected in a different way that, again, improves efficiency. But we're going to touch on each one of these things very briefly and show you what it all means and what it adds up to a much better product. So if we take these two things and we add them together, if we're going to improve the design and we build a larger magnetic structure, we're going to get better efficiency and better sensitivity. So if we reduce the vibration in the basket design and we build a drive cone that connects to the voice coil and connects to the front cone or the cap cone in a different way, in a more efficient way, we can deliver that power more efficiency. So if we use a bigger voice coil and bigger magnets, more powerful magnetic structure, we can deliver that power to the cone, to the voice cone, or I'm sorry, to the cone through the voice coil in a more efficient manner. Add these two things together, and we get fantastic differences in efficiency and sensitivity for the speaker.
And a small addition also, by increasing the magnet size and the voice coil size, we are increased the thermal handling capability of the subwoofers for longer exposure. So it's another win there as well.
All right.
So let's touch on the surround first, and because this is very, very interesting. This is what we call a hybrid surround, and it's really an elastic polymer that is mixed together with a non-woven fiber. And so all the time when I start to tell this story, I get, wait a second, hang on, Harry, it's a fabric, but it's not woven. What the hell is a fabric that's not woven? It's a synthetic fabric. And what you have to think of here is the vapor barrier that's used on the outside of new construction in homes. It's called Tyvek and other similar products to that. And maybe you've even seen envelopes, mailing envelopes that are made of this same material. It's sort of a white material and very sort of slicky. But if you've ever tried to tear it, it's almost impossible to tear with your hands. If you're going to cut this, the only way to do it is cut it. You need to make two pieces of it. You have to get a knife to cut the stuff. It's almost impossible to tear. Yeah, and a nice sharp knife at that. So taking an elastic polymer and mixing the non-woven fabric together, we can create a surround that is incredibly responsive to the needs of the speaker, yet also amazingly durable and light. And that's exactly what we're looking for. It's 45% lighter and stronger than a typical butyl rubber surround. This makes it more durable and better for an efficient sounding speaker.
I'm going to stop you there, Harry. You know, it's interesting that you put such an emphasis on the surround of a subwoofer. There's not a lot of brands that do this, and the surround is kind of put to the wayside as far as an important characteristic of a subwoofer. I would like to remind our listeners, and they know this, you know, the loudspeaker has two moving points. You've got the voice coil, which goes up and down, and then the rest of it is the cone. Yes, but the cone is only attached to the frame via that right there, which is the surround. So really, the part of the speaker that's moving the most, this is one of the two. So when you're talking about durability, I think that's a key element when it comes to not only the longevity of this.
Yeah, this is a high stress area.
It's a high stress area. Yeah. You know, that's like you look at a duotang or a binder. That's the crease that keeps on folding open and closed because that's where would it break? Right at that crease every single time. So
you're exactly right here, Ben. There's the two moving parts. The cone moves back and forth, but we don't want the cone to flex at all. So really, the cone doesn't really move. The voice coil moves up and down, but the voice coil shouldn't touch anything.
Right. It doesn't actually physically touch anything. It
doesn't wear. The only part is a wear point is the surround, and it has to be extremely durable. And, you know, for any installers who are listening there as well, it's harder to put a screwdriver through it if you mess up.
What are you saying, Harry?
I'm not saying nothing, but back in the day, we used to call that Phillips distortion when you would put the Phillips screwdriver right through it.
Yeah, but that is not a kind of thing that we want the guys to try or test.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying you can't put a screwdriver through it, but it is extremely durable and strong.
Very good. Very good.
I just saw a comment from Corey Vaillancourt said, "Challenge accepted. Please forget that."
All right, so let's take a moment and talk about the drive cone and the cap cone. These two work in conjunction to actually deliver the energy and create the vibrations in the air that is sound that comes to your ear. Right. So the voice coil is connected to the drive cone, and the drive cone is underneath that cap cone or the display cone that you see out in the front. The drive cone is 100% stronger, 108% stronger than the one from the previous model. It has to be that strong to be able to handle the power and transmit the power to that cap cone. And the way it connects, and we'll talk about this in a slide just coming up here in a moment or two, the way it connects to the front cone is an entirely different process than before as well, much improved and more efficient. The front cone, or the one that's actually you see when you look at it, has the honeycomb design. Now, this isn't some sort of a decal or something that's stuck on this cone to make it look like it's made in a honeycomb pattern. It is actually a structure of honeycomb. And this is a amazingly strong natural geometric pattern that makes things rigid and strong, so they don't bend out of their shape. This is what you want with a subwoofer, or for any speaker for that matter. You want a speaker cone that is incredibly rigid and strong and won't bend out of its shape, but also it has to be very light. So low mass, so the amplifier can control the motion of the speaker, not just force it back and forth. It has to control the motion of the voice coil and the woofer cone. So very, very strong, 39% stronger than previous pieces. It's a one continuous piece, right? There aren't multiple pieces of it that are glued together. One continuous piece, 39% stronger, and incredibly light as well, and low mass. These two things, the honeycomb structure of it is absolutely amazing, and the strength it delivers.
Please again look at the lower right corner. So it's 108, not 8% stronger. So it's more than 2 times stronger. It's 108%.
I'm sorry, but that last 30 seconds of what you were saying there, all I was thinking about is, I wonder if they're going to come out with a high-powered set of components to match this with that same cone technology.
Won't that be interesting to find out?
This is my evil pinky. Do you see the evil pinky? All right.
It is. Hey, one more thing on this.
Oh, yeah.
I get questions on this. On the bottom right, you can see the blue is 108% stronger there. There are holes. There are 3 holes actually in the drive cone. And so I get questions about that all the time. The holes are there so that air can flow through the drive cone. And it has to, because if you seal this, the temperature at which you seal it changes. Right. And so if there's air inside there, and it's a minus 20 or it's plus 20, you're going to get incredibly different changes in pressure inside that, and it will warp the drive cone or warp the cap cone, one of the two. So you have to have air that can pass through these things for that to work properly.
Yeah. So it makes sense to have venting on the drive cone, but obviously not on the outside cone.
Yeah. The outside cone, the cap cone, that's a single piece. Right.
Right. Gotcha. All right.
All right, so this is the way the drive cone connects to the cap cone or to the honeycomb structured cone in the front. And that connection point has changed so that the connection point is all the way up to the surround on the speaker. And again, this is very important on how this connection works, because the previous model kind of had a loss point about 2/3 of the way up. And this was cause a flex in the front cone, or a flex in that cap cone. So the new design connects all the way up to the surround and equally delivers that power throughout the cap cone. So this is a critical point here. We are not losing energy through flex in the cap cone, just simply by changing the way that drive cone connects and delivers the power, transmits the power to the front cone.
It sounds like a pretty simple concept. I'm wondering if, by looking at the previous model, why that route was taken. There must have been reasons at the time for the design, but it just seems like it makes so much more sense the way it is done now.
I agree. I can't really speak to why it was done that way previously.
Just be clear. I'm sorry, Harry. This is not just Pioneer that builds their subwoofers that way. There's many products which are built that
many
way.
products on the market. Actually, they are what we're talking about with the back cone structures. Actually, most of the speaker design that we see on the market are actually that same conical shape, where they have a small dust cap to cover the voice coil itself. So that structures that we've created, actually, it's way stronger. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
All right, so let's talk about the basket. And, typically you look at a speaker basket and you just don't think much about it. This is the structure, and you build the whole speaker inside of it. Yet, if the basket flexes and bends or vibrates, that's lost energy that could be delivered to the woofer and delivered to your vehicle. And so we're going to take a very simple piece of metal and bend it in a couple of patterns so that it becomes stronger. And I get the question all the time with this, please, how can you bend the metal when it becomes stronger? That's ridiculous. Bending the metal probably makes it weaker. It doesn't. And I want you to think of the hood of your car. That's a big flat piece of metal out there, right? But it's not flat. If you go look at it, I'll bet that the hood of your car has a couple of warps that are put into it by the manufacturer. They put those bends in the metal like that to improve its strength. They also want to give it a good cosmetic look for the hood of your car, but that's not cosmetic at all. That is about the strength of the hood of the car. If you don't have those flexes in the metal, those bends in the metal, that hood is going to bend like this, right? It'll be a disaster. So a simple groove that is put into that basket structure changes its strength and rigidity by about 50%, reduces the vibration by about 50% that is lost through the basket. Very, very simple change, huge performance increase.
And remember that the basket is the foundation of the speaker. So the less vibration you translate into the basket or the cabinet, the better the bass will be, the better quality it will be. So you don't have to fight between inertia of that speaker resonance induced in the basket, because we minimize it at the foundation of that system.
100%. Accuracy is another word that comes to play here, and efficiency. Again, this whole theme I see is all about efficiency and making these speakers more efficient than they were previously. And just, if I can understand correctly, this groove structure and your analogy of the hood, what I feel that is doing, it's kind of creating non-linear shape to disperse that stress, versus not having like being a flat plane. Right.
Yes.
And I think that's what that illustration shows, whereby the old version had a weak point, and it specifically was that ring, whereby by now putting that new groove structure, it dissipates that stress over the entire surface area, therefore making it stronger and more efficient. Did I get that right? I think I understood.
Yeah, you do. And really what you do when you put a flex, a flex isn't the right word, but when you put a bend in metal like that, it's a really simple thing. If you look at a piece of metal and it's straight up and down, I'm trying to get the camera right there. If you put a piece of metal and it's straight up and down, it's, we'll say, just for purposes, 5 millimeters across, okay? But if you bend it like this at 45-degree angle, now all of a sudden it's 6 millimeters straight across.
Gotcha. Yes, understand.
That's where the strength comes from.
We had a question from Corey. I don't understand it, but hey, it's not for me to understand. The question is, could there be a potential loss point at the connection of the transformer?
Transformer?
I'm trying to understand transformer, Corey.
Yeah.
Where does the transformer come from? So let's see if I'll give him an opportunity to explain that a little bit, unless you understand.
If you mean the former, Okay, that's okay. The former, that's okay. So, Ben, if you'll go back one slide. Okay, so the former here is really like the voice coil bobbin area right here. I'm pointing at it with my mouse. You can't see what I'm pointing at. On the cutaway design, on the cutaway of that image, you can see that the voice coil bobbin, or the former, as we will also call it, I think that's what you're talking about there, Corey, comes up. It does not touch the cap cone, okay? It's up high to dissipate heat. It's up high near the cap cone, but it does not touch the cap cone. So that former is connected to the drive cone. The drive cone is connected to the front or the cap cone. The former does not touch the cap cone. So this isn't an area of loss. And with a much more rigid drive cone that we have connected here, that energy is delivered to the front cone or through that drive cone.
All right.
And
I hope that answers your question for you.
Yeah, your point. That's a typo for sure. And at the same time, without connecting the voice coil former with the front cone, okay, good. So we are helping the hair movement within the voice coil section and between the two cone section in a way to improve the air movement to reduce the thermal.
Lee Installer, who watches CMA pretty much religiously. Yes, Lee, it is called a crease. Thank you. I couldn't find the right word for it. Thank you so much. It's actually called a crease. Good. All right, here we go. Let's talk about the basket a little bit, Harry.
Okay, so the basket is the steel basket on the inside. This is the reinforcement basket that is on the back of the speaker. And I'm going to tell you that some manufacturers, and they'll remain nameless here, take a hunk of plastic and they glue it onto the back of their speaker to make that speaker look big and hefty. Okay, that is not the process that we're doing here. This reinforcement basket that goes on the back of the basket and on the back of the magnet structure here is to reduce vibration. And that's exactly what it does. It reduces vibration that's coming through the metal basket. And of course, if you reduce the vibration that's coming through the basket, that energy is going to be delivered through the front cone and through the enclosure. So this reduces the vibration by 47%. You can see that on the right-hand side of the graph there. That's how much it reduces the vibration. of the basket. So by reducing the vibration of the basket, that energy is being delivered somewhere. That's being delivered to your car through that woofer cone.
I received a question. How can plastic reduce more vibration than steel? Steel should be stronger. So I can translate that because the plastic, based on the thickness or how we mold it, can have a different vibration characteristic versus the metal steel we are using. So if the steel, the metal sheet itself resonate to specific frequencies, the characteristic from the plastic on the other side will have different resonate frequencies. So both will work together to minimize their vibration frequencies where they are at best. Combining those two, we're reducing the vibration level.
So what you mean is that's not any plastic. That plastic is specifically chosen and formed in that shape at that situation to match.
Yeah, we target specific vibration frequencies that we were not being able to reduce just by using steel. So that's why we did it this way, in a way to match those two component together in a way to reduce those vibration even further.
Dude, it's nice to know there's some science behind it. I would say, man, they look cool. Like, I mean, it makes it look beefier.
At the same time,
it's one of those baskets that I would like if I had an opportunity to put an enclosure by which I could see the basket.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win. I mean, even on the showroom floor, if you have that, I mean, you put that in a customer's hand, and it's like, yeah, buddy, that's a sub. You know what I mean? All right, let's keep it going.
Okay,
yeah,
so
one.
we're gonna yeah, this is a big one. We're gonna take the magnet and motor assembly here and make this thing stronger and bigger than it was before. So we have about 50% larger magnet.
Wow.
So it's a double stack magnet, and it's up to a 90-ounce magnet now, or the total amount for the magnet is 90 ounces. That is it's a huge increase over the previous one, and that's a great idea. You know, you want to take more magnet, right? And but if you take more magnet, you are going to change the magnetic flux density of the whole system now. You can't just use a bigger magnet in the same voice coil. You have to adjust the voice coil so that it works properly with the new magnet that you have. Or if you want to do the chicken and the egg thing, if you want to make a bigger, thicker voice coil, you're going to need more magnet so that voice coil responds to it. These two pieces work directly in conjunction with each other. So we increased the gauge of the voice coil wire by about 44%. It's the same number of windings in the voice coil, but the gauge of the wire is much thicker, and that gives you almost 1.5 times more voice coil than you had before. Match that up with I think it went from a 60-ounce magnet up to a 90-ounce magnet. Now all of a sudden you've increased that magnetic structure, and you've increased the motor structure, and the two of them together with that long aluminum voice coil bobbin that dissipates the heat are going to give you great power handling capability and much greater reliability and resistance to heat problems than you had before. So just a complete change in the way the process works.
Yes, absolutely. I get it. The voice coil and the magnet size increase it, but I can't help but think, whenever you oversize stuff like this, for me, I'm always concerned that, oh, great, now I need more power. Right? But
it makes sense, right?
That's what I'm thinking. My instinct tells me bigger stuff means mine need more power to drive it.
Yeah, because it's heavier to move.
Right. It's just physics, right? That's what I'm thinking. But
yeah, that makes very good sense. So flip over to the next picture. And this is where I'm going to make your excellent argument. I'm going to change the parameters of your argument. All right. So we're going to talk about magnetic flux density here. And when I talk about magnetic flux density, all I really mean, it's not quite as precise, but all I really mean is focusing the magnetic force into one area. All right. And so on the picture on the right-hand side that has the red circle around it, that is the gap between the voice coil and the stationary magnet. All right, so that's where the voice coil rides up and down right there. That's what we call the gap. If you look at this picture, the one on the left that says previous, you're going to see the top plate is one large metal top plate. Now go over to the one on the right that has the red circle. You're going to see there's a top plate, but the top half of the top plate is missing, right? So it's like a 1.5 top plate. Now, go over to the picture on the left, and you can see it from a little bit further out. You can see there's the top plate, but the top half of the top plate is only a ring that goes around that voice coil. This is the crazy part. By reducing the amount of that top plate, we focus the magnetic energy into a tighter spot in that gap. If that's a full-size top plate, the magnetic energy, the magnetic flux density is more dispersed. By removing some of that top plate, we can focus that magnetic flux density, and now we can better control the motion of the voice coil up and down. The amplifier can control that motion better. It's amazing. Remove something, and your speaker becomes more efficient and delivers more energy to the speaker rather than to heat into the voice coil or heat into the magnets.
Okay, I got a lot to say here. So the first thing is on the bottom right. I've been staring at these numbers this entire time that you've been talking there about this magnetic flux density. 77 dB in the previous model, 92 dB from this. No, I'm not saying it's only this, because obviously you've spoken to other technologies before this slide. Okay, so nobody here listening is a noob when it comes to sound. That is a my math is bad, but it was that 25?
15.
16?
Yeah, 15 dB.
15 dB from physical changes?
I would be delighted to come here and tell you about a 1.5 dB change that we got in sensitivity, made it 1.5, dB better than it was. Or if I could tell you about 3 dB better than it was, I would be delighted to tell you that.
Celebration, right?
Yes, and I'll just jump into this. If you've been in this business for a little while, you've done some of the mathematics, to get a 3 decibel increase out of a speaker, you need to double the amount of amplifier power. 3 dB requires double the amount of amplifier power, or it requires a better, smarter design that is more efficient. And we've shown you piece after piece after piece that is more efficient. And then you come here and put this smaller top plate on to reduce the amount of metal there and focus the magnetic density to the one spot. 15 dB increase. Yeah. Now, this is in a anechoic chamber where we test these things, and the actual benefit to your vehicle isn't going to be that huge, but it's going to be gigantic, and I'll show you really what you can expect when you get it.
Real life scenario is really a game changer as well. It's not that 15 dB, but if you compare within the same parameters, same car, same installation, same power, same amplifiers,
night and day.
Same enclosure size, same tuning. The result is just amazing. And again, 3 dB is twice the power or twice the amount of subwoofers.
Right. Exactly. So the other point I want to make before we continue here, I'm listening to you explain to me, removing material, focusing the transfer of energy between the magnet to the voice coil through what you're calling the gap. This reminds me a lot of like how light reacts to lensing, whereby you can focus the intensity of light through a lens, and gain more intensity.
That's what it is. What it is.
Very interesting. Wow, 15.
So result in real car is that.
Yeah, here you go. So let me just explain what you're looking at when you look at this chart. This is across the bottom is the frequency that is playing back. So all the way over here at the left, it's 10 hertz. All the way over at the right, that's 100 hertz. The peak in the middle here for this, and by the way, this is a ported enclosure. The peak in the middle here is about 50 hertz. Okay, and you can see the tan colored chart. That's the previous model. The blue one is the new model. So at 50 hertz, we're picking up about 2 dB, 1.5, 2 dB more at 50 hertz. But come back down to 40 hertz, 30 hertz, and all the way down to 20 hertz. You're looking at about a 5 or 6 dB increase. But keep this in mind. I'm talking about using the same amplifier in the same enclosure, and I'm going to deliver 5 dB more. Remember, 3 dB requires double the power.
From like 20 to 40 hertz.
Within the frequency range that the guys are looking at.
And by the way, if you like to boom, that's approximately the frequencies where you boom across that. Across that octave right there is where you're going to get that boom.
That's the difference between a tickle and a chest pound.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right. I mean, and this is about efficiency with the speakers. So while we didn't increase the power handling capability greatly with these speakers, what we did was take the power that you have and increase the efficiency of the speaker for a hell of a lot more boom from the same power.
Great concept. And wow, the proof is in the pudding right there. All right. I think that wraps up.
Is ready to ship.
And so, yeah, so let's close this part out. So brand new Champion Series, kind of a play off an existing, legacy sub brand of Pioneer. Great cosmetics, let's out of the gate. Looks hefty, looks beefy, but can back it up with technology, efficiency. I mean, literally, this is like one of those swap out and experience the difference situations.
Yeah,
and
it's done. It's no more. Yep. Sorry, Ari. It's not anymore a $2,000 subwoofers as we had in the past. It's less than 10% of that price.
So it's in the affordable category as well.
Yeah.
And you were saying as far as availability for dealers,
ready to ship.
Canada,
ready to ship
in the catalog. So I'm going to presume that many dealers may already have had the information sent to them that they're about this update.
Just release.
So just release. Watch this video. Compare it with the notes on paper, and then I think you'll be able to be making a better decision on how deep you want to go with this particular series. Now, one thing we should mention, 12-inch only single voice coil and double voice coil configuration.
That's right.
That's correct. So 12-inch only, but isn't it exciting to think about what might be coming right around the corner? Who knows what might be happening?
See this? Okay, we have some time left that we've saved for another new product release. We're going to shift gears. We're going to go from deep bass to ADAS dash cam category. So before I bring up the slide, Harry, can you talk to us a little bit about why is Pioneer doing ADAS?
Okay, so I think that this is an interesting and growing category for us across the board, and so we're going to talk a little bit about a dual channel dash camera right here, but there's more to this category, and Pioneer has introduced a number of different products in this category over the past couple of years. So we've introduced blind spot detectors into the ADAS category. So when you have the vehicle in reverse and cross traffic blind spot detectors. And we also introduced a couple of years ago parking sensors, which are part of it as well, that work with a couple of different in-dash receivers. This is an extension of that. And with the type of scam crazy things that happen on the road today, what you need is a digital witness. Okay, because you can go to court and say, this is what happened, but somebody else can go to court and say, no, it isn't. This is what happened. I have a digital witness to what happened. I have a high definition or sharper than high definition camera that proves what happened. And as long as I'm the good guy, I like that a lot. If I'm the problem, I may not bring up the camera.
We talk to good guys. Yeah. That's our audience. All right, so let's take a look at what this new. So this is a dual camera, or
this is a dual camera.
Okay, so this. What are we looking at right here before we get in?
That's the rear camera that we're looking at right there. Okay, that's the rear channel camera that can point out the back of the back windscreen if you want. And this is just why you want to use a dash camera. Like I said, the digital witness thing is what this is all about. Dash cams record continuously, and if there's some sort of an impact or some sort of an event, it will save that particular minute or 2 or 3 minute recording into a separate folder, and you can go back and review it later. But this is about constantly monitoring what your vehicle is doing and what's happening in and around your vehicle. That's what it's about, and protecting yourself should you need to.
So just one small thing, Zari, because you want this thing to protect yourself. This is one of the things you need to have installed and forget about, because you hope that you will never look at it, or hope to will never have any situation that you will need to look at it. But you need to have product that is really reliable and a product that you can trust. So if you're constantly asking yourself, is it recording? Is it working? Is it doing it right? Will it capture the right images in front of the car or in the back because it's too dark? or so you really need to have a product that is reliable, something you can
and
trust,
instills
easy
confidence.
to use. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not a toy. Pioneer is doing product actually that are sharing fun, excitement, but this particular category is a bit different. We're not talking about gadget. We're talking about tools.
It says on the bottom, no gadgets, no compromises, just a good camera system that's easy to use and that will work when you need it. Please walk us through this, Harry.
Okay, so this is the VREC DH300D. And what I can tell you about this camera is it is very small. The camera that you see on the screen right there is about the size of a credit card. Okay. That's about the size of the footprint there. So it's extremely small. This is it's sharper than high definition camera. So very clear images of what's happening out the front of the vehicle and out the back of the vehicle. If you want, you can spin the camera around in the back and record what's happening inside the vehicle in case you're like a share driver, a rideshare driver, something like that, and you need digital witness for what's happening inside your vehicle. You can do something like that as well. It can also record audio from inside your vehicle if you wanted to. There is a SD card on the side of the thing. It comes with a 16 gigabyte card. You can put in up to 128 gigabyte card should you want to. All right. But the point of the dash cam, or the process of the dash cam, I want to say, is it continuously records. And when there are events, then it will save that event and put it into a different folder that's kind of protected. And it will continuously record in a loop again as you're driving around until another event happens, and it will save that one. So you need to go back and review them occasionally. And if there's nothing really important there, delete them and put them back into the main loop again. But if you go through a traffic light and somebody T-bones you, or if your vehicle is hit from behind or something like that, your digital witness is there to prove that you were right and to save what's going on with you. It can continuously record information, like video information, and your speed and GPS location and direction information on this very powerful system.
I want to make a comment here. I think most of our listeners, being dealers, understand what dash cams do, and you've done a brilliant job explaining it. I think that one of the challenges in this category, and we don't have to dive in this for long, but for dealers listening in, it's about educating the customer. I can tell you firsthand, I think everybody here would agree, the average consumer does not know what a dash cam does because they perceive that as a camera, as a traditional type of camera, and do not understand everything that Harry just explained, by which it continuously records. It'll, depending on the size of the card it goes in, it'll erase the oldest data, starting first with that, and so on and so forth. So I think there's a certain level of education that needs to happen. But what I see here are some key features that every good dash cam system requires. I noticed one thing that stands out for me, Harry, is that this particular unit has built-in GPS.
Yeah, it has built-in GPS, and in fact, the GPS sensor is on the mount that sticks onto the windshield. So that's the best place to put the GPS sensor because it is the highest point, and it's going to get that information right through the glass. You actually power this thing through the mount, and then the mount transfers the GPS data and the power down to the camera. And operates the rear camera off that same power source there. It will continuously record and overlay the GPS data on the screen.
I was just going to ask that. Does it show up on the screen? Interesting, because that's important for any legal course, a course of action or insurance that need to know. Well, I mean, if the GPS, there's no argument whatsoever. The other thing I noticed, well, not that I noticed, but I have to ask for dealers, is there a hardwire kit available for this, or is it only cigarette lighter?
So this operates by a cigarette lighter out of the box. Pioneer will offer a hardwire kit for this product, I think, within the next couple of months, though that is not available right now. I think the VREC DH300D, the dual camera system here, will be available very shortly, maybe by the end of the month or early within January. And the hardwire kit should follow a little long after that.
I'll look in the system this morning and we will be able to ship in the next day. So think about this week, end of this week.
Okay,
maybe.
so it's basically available. All right. And the last question I have for you here before we move on, parking mode. Please elaborate on what that means.
So when you have the hardwire kit installed, okay, the parking mode will kind of 24 hours a day will sort of protect your vehicle. And by protect, I mean record what is happening around it. So if someone should back up and bump into your vehicle while it's parked, the camera will come on and record for a minute or so to see what was going on, hopefully record the license plate or pictures of a person as they get out of their car and look like this to see what kind of damage they did. You get a nice clear view of that person and their vehicle to help you should that person, be a low life and drive away without leaving a note or something like that. But that's what parking mode is for. It's about protecting your vehicle when you're not there.
And that's important to note because not all systems can do this. I just want to echo what Lee says. A lot of customers want the dash cam to do the security DVR functions while the vehicle is parked. Most customers think that's what they do, but not all dash cams can do this. So this is just beyond ADAS. ADAS is for convenience and safety. This is also a security element to this.
Yeah, there's a security element to it. Now, let me be clear, though. I don't want to oversell what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
With parking mode, this camera does not have any battery system built into it. So it's got a super capacitor built in so that when you turn the vehicle off, it will stop recording and save the final recording and then shut itself down, even though you've switched the vehicle off. And this is important because if you're in a real crash and your vehicle shuts off, maybe the battery is disconnected in that crash somehow, something like that, the camera will continue to go through its shutdown process, even though maybe it's been disconnected from the battery somehow. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's important so it can save the final video clip that it's been recording, and that will be safely stored and will be your digital witness a little bit later. But the parking mode, since it doesn't have a battery built into it, the parking mode is when the camera is not on 24 hours a day while you're parked, but it is in sort of a ready mode. And if something bumps into it, it senses a shock of some sort. The camera now comes on and records what's happening front and rear for a minute or so, and then will shut itself off again.
Sorry,
go ahead, Robert.
Just one small addition. So if you had the hardware kit, you'll have the opportunity to select additional features where you can have some surveillance mode as well. So it can work with the G sensors to detect the impact, as Ari said, but you'll also have the opportunity to say, okay, maintain the power for 2 hours or 3 hours, or once the car is parked. So it's kind of surveillance mode from that mode again. So we have two options from the parking mode. So I just want to answer to the question that Lee asked.
And there you go, Lee. I think Harry just answered your question for you. Okay, and we go.
Let's go. We kind of talked about some of the stuff. Can we go forward to the next one?
Absolutely. There we go.
Because I think we're almost out of time here. So flexible installation angle. This is very simple. The front camera comes on its own mount and sticks to the windshield. And it has, an adjustable angle there so you can get a proper view out the front. And like we said, the GPS sensor is actually up in the mount. Now, this has a quick release bracket on it, so you can pop that thing off of there. And the reason it has this quick release bracket is so that you can get the SD card out of the side of this thing without torturing yourself.
I know what you mean.
It's so small and it's up against your windshield. Yeah. You can just pop it. You just hit a little tab, pop this thing off, get the SD card out, go do what you need to do to view the videos, and then put it back in there and snap it back into place. And then the rear camera also mounts on the rear windscreen. And it can be rotated around. Now, this says 90 degrees on it, but my experience with it can be rotated 180 degrees and pointed in any direction, front or rear, should you want it to.
Engineers at Pioneer are helping you not get cramps when you don't.
Just because Ari mentioned maybe the pain of manipulation with the little SD card on the side. In the design, we took time to test different scenarios. And the camera section, if we go back to the previous pages, we were able to see the 4 button on the side of the unit. So it's hard button. It's not a touchscreen unit. Think about dealing with a small unit as this size because it's credit card size, and you need to deal close to the mirror with the touchscreen. It's going to be a pain for interaction on a daily basis. So it's better for you to have your hand grab the unit and push the button on the side than having
with the hard
a
button
touchscreen. Yeah,
right. Gotcha.
Right. So audio, there's a speaker on it for playing back videos, should you want to do that, and there's a microphone built into it as well. And like we said, it comes with a 16 gigabyte card, but you can increase that up to 128 gigabyte card should you want to. But that's increasing that is not really necessary. I mean, because of the loop system that a dash cam does, but it certainly doesn't hurt you to throw in a 32 gigabyte card, 64 gigabyte card, something like that.
Okay.
So, recorded videos here are saved to the SD card. And when I say recorded videos, it continuously saves to the SD card in like a 1 minute segment video. And you can adjust this if you want to using the settings on the camera. But each 1 minute segment of video is recorded there. And then the oldest ones get erased and replaced by the new ones in a loop pattern. That's all we're really talking about here. But any sort of incident, and that's a G sensor, if there's an impact on your vehicle or some sort of incident, that's automatically going to be saved and stored into a safe folder that won't get erased automatically. And at any time, if you want to, you can touch a button on the camera to save this image, even though your vehicle may not be in some sort of an impact or event happening. And I always like to say, I don't know if you remember, but a couple of years ago, there was this giant meteor that fell from the sky over Russia. And, it was caught on tons of different dash cameras. Now, that wouldn't cause an event that's going to be automatically saved by this camera. But if you touch that button on the side, now it's going to save that for you, and you can go back and review it later.
Yeah,
if you should,
it's a good witness
survive the meteor impact.
If you should, and thrive with the cockroaches after the fallout. Okay, here we go. Easy wiring. I don't think this is rocket science here for any of our listeners anyway.
Yeah.
No, it's certainly
small details, but important for the installer. No external GPS antenna,
yes.
Saving time for the installation. So it's all included in the system, by the way. So all the wiring cable, USB-C connection for the power supply, and USB-C connection for the rear camera as well.
Right. So no power grab to the rear. It just straight up powers off the USB.
One cable. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, one cable, and it's USB to the rear, except the cable that goes to the rear camera is split into two pieces, so you can install it front to back and back to front.
Okay.
Yep.
We talked a little bit about that snap-on bracket. Very easy to get the camera off of there and back on should you need to.
All right.
And then this is the user interface, and you'll find that it's a very intuitive user interface. There are 4 buttons on the side of the camera, and they're tactile buttons that you press in to get the different menu items. It's, frankly, on this size of a screen, it's just much easier to use buttons on the side than it is a touch screen. It's just much easier, especially like these bricklayer hands that I got. Touch screen that size is just, it kills me.
Harry's thumb would cover half that screen alone.
It would.
GPS logger.
Yeah, you can see, if you can see this thing a little clearer, this slide, there is GPS information listed right across the bottom of this image. And that as you drive, it continuously updates and shows you what's going on. Again, this is your digital witness. That's the point of this thing. And, the information that it collects is fact. And, your insurance company can't argue it.
Indisputable.
Yeah, your insurance company is going to do what insurance companies do, and that's try to not pay. This forces them to pay if it's not your fault. So we talked a little bit about the impact recordings. You can change the sensitivity of the sensors in there to determine if it's an impact or not. A number of different ways to set that up, but that's very typical of different cameras, I think.
Yeah. The viewing angle.
Yeah, viewing angles are a little bit different for the front and rear cameras. And by the way, you can do a split screen thing there at the same time. So, 135-degree viewing angle for the front camera, 128 for the rear camera. Very nice wide viewing angles. And high definition, it's, 1080p definition on the rear camera. It's higher than high definition TV on the front camera.
All right. Oh,
really?
that's something I want to talk about, the night performance real quick.
Yeah, the night performance is really important here. And we, I don't mind saying we buy a chip from Sony. It's called the Starvis chip that we use in some of their technology for the night vision because they have a fantastic product. And we can't argue. We do
No,
not
all the
make
top dash
this.
cams use that same technology.
Yeah, we
But
don't make this
it's
product, and so we buy it from Sony and some of their technology to do it. But this is about being able to properly expose the image and still give you clear views of the nighttime road, or when you pull into a parking garage and you get a huge change in the brightness from the outside of daylight and driving into a dark parking garage, and still being able to give you a quality image that you can recognize in what's going on. That's part of the Starvis chip.
Yeah. And it's not just about the sensor. So even if you have the good sensor, you need to have the processing power and the processing management within the software of the unit to manage the information. So it's really important to capture the information the right way. Just a quick one with that final slide where you can see all the things included in box. We're showing a HUD numbers, 27 frame per second for image acquisition, and not the typical 30 frame per second or 60 frame per second that many guys in the industries are using. Reason why Pioneer picked that 27 frame per second is pretty simple. Traffic light are using electricity power that is 60 hertz, especially in North America, which means the light you see is not constantly on because it's powered from that 60 hertz signal, which is a 60 flash per second. We have imprint on our retina from the eyes, but the sensor is so fast that there's no imprint effect on that sensor. So if the sensor of the camera that is 30 frame per second or 60 frame per second actually is doing a snapshot at the time that the light is in the off state from the traffic light. The only thing that you will see on your recording is a traffic light, but without any active light on it.
And that could be a critical piece to who's at fault.
Yeah,
it certainly could. And let me make another analogy very quickly, Ben. This is if you've ever seen a camera image of driving beside a car and it appears that the wheels on the other car are turning backwards, that is frame rate of the camera that causes that to happen. This is the same story here.
Okay. I want to mention that if you're interested in getting a full What's in the Box video, Harry has an awesome channel on YouTube where I believe he definitely does the Champion series because I watched that. I won't say where, but I did watch the whole video, and as well as I'm pretty sure you're doing this dash cam unboxing as well, if I'm not mistaken. There,
this one is on the YouTube channel as well, and that YouTube channel is called Pioneer Electronics. One word.
Pioneer Electronics. Catch Harry do all the unboxing. We'll get into it. Guys, thank you so much for being on the show today. We've run out of time, but I think we covered what we wanted to do. Brand new Champion 12-inch subwoofers, both in single voice coil and dual voice coil configurations. Incredible improvements on efficiency and output. Fantastic opportunity to swap out and upgrade your performance. And a new front-back dash cam solution, all in one package, ready to go with a hardwire kit, which is basically available later this week. And new functionality with that hardwire kit with the parking mode and everything else we discussed.
Quick note to the Canadian dealers, do fast. The order actually are loading it in my inbox. So if you want to have the goods in due time, please place your order.
Place your order. Time is of the essence. And when there's inventory, I don't need to tell you, order it. Okay, Harry, thank you so much for spending your precious time with us again. It's always a great one. It's been a fun year. This is our last one for the season, but I do look forward to reconnecting with you in the new year where we learn all about what's new at Pioneer again.
Thanks, Ben. I look forward to it as well.
Take care now. Mr. Robert, I'm going to review what you just said, guys. You know, inventory is hard to come by, man. This is some pretty cool product.
Yeah. Actually, my inbox is I look at the numbers all the time while I do the session like this.
Okay.
And it's cling.
Well, that's good. We got reps on here. I'm sure they're messaging their customers and so on and so forth. Robert, thank you so much. It's been a great season. We've had the opportunity to talk all kinds of Pioneer product, both in English and in French. Maybe we'll do a little bit more French next year. We'll see how that goes. But
we'll do.
Just thank you for making the time and being that resource for dealers.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. Thanks for your time. I know you spent a lot of time behind the camera not only in front of the camera. So not all people think about all the behind the scene.
Well, you know what? I got to say, thank you for mentioning that, because, I do spend a lot of time looking into this stuff. So I don't look like an idiot when I'm up here with you, because I'm always on the screen with people smarter than me. Do people realize that?
Come on. You know, the more we read things, the more we learn, the more we think that we're dumb. So
that's the business cycle. Robert,
yeah,
thanks so much, man. Have a great holiday season, and we'll see you in 2022
as well. Take care.
Take care. There you have it, folks. Brand new champion subwoofers from Pioneer, as well as a dual front and rear dash cam solution from the good folks at Pioneer Electronics. I'm going to go ahead and flash this one more time. If you're looking for more information on Pioneer, go ahead and check it out, their website, pioneerelectronics.ca. And if you're a dealer, well, you better message Robert, because apparently his inbox is filling up on those orders. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in to another CMA Connected here, presented by SiriusXM. We're going to come back to just a few more shows to go for the season before we close it out and head into the holidays. On that note, I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
Hey, y'all. Can we change up the chores?
Sorry. It's up to the wheel, man.
Oh, yeah?
Hey, change the channel back.
Sorry, it's up to the wheel.